Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Dobry, and I'm a course director in the PR MA program online, as well as the New Media Journalism program. And today's speaker is someone I heard speaking at a meeting for the Florida Writers Association, and I thought he was really great. He had a lot of good information. And at the meeting I was in, he didn't have time to go into LinkedIn, information about LinkedIn. And I said, oh, darn, I really wanted to hear more about that. So I asked him if he would come to Full Sail and talk about that, since a lot of the month 12 students that I teach are preparing to go out and brand themselves, get a job, send out resumes, cover letters. So I thought this would be helpful to not only my students, but other students in the program, in the university, as well as the staff. So let me just introduce our speaker. His name is Jean Perpillon, and he's a professional photographer and a digital media strategist who calls himself a strategy architect. His company with his wife, Nicole, is Design Theory, and they design websites, host emails and domains. They offer analytics services. He helps businesses expand their brand online with the same personality they have in person. He manages websites for small businesses and organizations, and he creates social media ads. One of the things he's been doing is he has a closed Facebook group called Hero Academy, where he does live shows talking about marketing tips and strategies, kind of like what you'll hear today. He's spoken here at Full Sail before at the Florida BlogCon on Google Analytics for beginners, and he's spoken on various other topics for different groups at Full Sail as well. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage our speaker, Jean Perpillon.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. What's going on? That was an awesome intro. Thank you so much, Diane. I really appreciate that. Thank you all for being here, as well as in the on the blogosphere, not blogosphere, the webosphere, if you will, the interwebs. I want to talk to you guys today about LinkedIn. It's one of those treasures that I feel like not a lot of people really pay a lot of attention to, and you really should, because it's undervalued in terms of the ability of your reach on the organic side compared to the other social platforms that we're all used to, like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and so on, right? And so I have been... There we go. So is that, yeah, okay. So a little bit about me. I've been using LinkedIn. I've been a member since 2008. I literally had to go look that up because I couldn't tell how far back I got on there. And I was kind of surprised that I've been on the platform for so long. A little bit about me that you heard from Diane as well is that, I created a design agency called Design Theory. I'm a father, a photographer, creative, all of the above. And all of these things that I have done are partly on LinkedIn in some way, form, or fashion. Now, years ago, when I first got onto LinkedIn as well as others, it was really more of like an online platform for your resume. So like if you were looking for jobs or you wanted to kind of introduce people to what you did in terms of your professionality, your career, LinkedIn was a really good platform for that. It was kind of like having your online resume that people can go to and kind of see your body of work, a little bit of what you've done, what your skills were, what your links to your websites and portfolios and things like that. But now, fast forward several years ago to what's happening right now, is it's really much more of a content platform than it used to be, which is fantastic. And for those of you that are not using it as much, or probably just thinking about using it, this is a great time for you to get in. Okay. So what are we going to discuss? First, we're going to talk about optimizing your profile. Okay, there's so many different ways, well, not so many different ways, but there's so many different aspects of your profile page that is super, super important that you should know about, and I definitely want to go over some of the more highlighting or the more important subjects of that that will really get you going with your promotions with your profile. The next thing that I want to get into is creating engaging posts. while you're not going to be the only people that are going to be using the platform, there's plenty of other people that are on there as well. There are certain ways that you can kind of leverage your posts to get more exposure, more reach, and more engagement within the followers that are following you as well as who's following them. Third thing I want to talk about is video. What's cool about this is that you guys are here in the audience, and that's fantastic, but you also have people that are online that are watching, and nonetheless, we are consuming more and more content that is in video form, and LinkedIn is right behind that. While, again, we're used to these video consumption on other platforms, LinkedIn is kind of seeing that, and they're positioning themselves to leverage that in a much more organic way, and boosting that for those of you that are creating content in video format on this platform. The last thing that I want to talk about is resources for content creation. So a lot of you may be, studying different areas of media or different areas of technology, and maybe you're not familiar with, creating graphics or creating certain types of things. A lot of what I'm going to show you are free resources that you can use online to help you to create graphics, maybe even use some video, text, and things like that that'll help you to make some really good and engaging content. Okay. Now, part of this, actually all of this is mainly geared for you guys to interact. So if you have any questions as I'm going along, let me know. I have no problem with stopping and addressing that. I think that we have a microphone that'll be going around. So I'll just ask that you wait, grab the mic, and then ask your question. That way people in the audience can hear as well as those that are online can hear as well. Okay? Now, I'd like to start off with stats because for me, stats are very important when it comes to anything that you're planning on creating content for or spending your time to do. All right. So when we look at, and this is coming right from LinkedIn's page where they're tracking their analytics on their About page, and across the globe, we're looking at about 600 million users in about 200 countries, which is a lot. It's not as much as what we're seeing on some of the other platforms, but for what we're going to talk about here, this is super, super important because it's really going to show you how well that your content is going to be able to do, not just in the country. So for example, right now, we're looking at about, in the US, we got about 165 million users on the platform. Well, that is a lot, but if we look at some of the other areas, especially in Europe, we're looking at about 206 million users. And so if you think about the type of maybe business or service or products that you're looking to offer, and you think about, okay, well, they don't necessarily have to be just regional or not, or within the country that you're in right now. It may be something to where it's like this product could be sold and bought, or this service could be offered in another country. So if we look at the stats and we look at the numbers of the users that we have here, especially if you're looking at trying to market within Europe, or within Asia, there's several millions of users in those markets. So the likelihood that they're going to see your content and that they're going to want to engage with your content is very, very high, especially because this platform is very much so more on the business side of mindset and less on the humor side. So you're not going to really see too many like cat videos or cute dogs doing tricks or things like that. You're going to be seeing more content that is going to be talking about specific industries or specific aspects of different industries or products that are geared towards the B2B and B2C. And some of the vernacular I'm going to use is B2B. So if you have any questions on it, let me know. But B2B is essentially business to business, or B2C being business to consumer. Okay. Okay. So the biggest thing that I want to spend time on here is your profile page. This is mine, and there's a lot of things that are on here that you can manipulate, which is super, super cool. Number one is what I always tell people is that this is also coming from the photographer in me, but you always want to have a really good profile photo. Years ago, when we all got on LinkedIn early off, it was where, oh, well, we can just throw whatever kind of picture. Some people would have a picture of them, maybe just coming out of a conference, so you might see them with a suit and jacket. Some people, they would be in their backyards with their kids, and they would have, maybe a horse in the back or something like that. There wasn't really a lot of attention that was being placed on the photo per se, but it did still play a role in terms of how you decided to interact with that person, whether or not you wanted to send a connection request to them, or whether or not you thought that they were worthy of a job or something like that. And so not long after, when people really started to use it, they started to gravitate more towards, okay, maybe we should start using more professional photos. And sometimes they would be maybe just their cell phone they would hold up in front of them at their desk, and in some cases maybe like this, or you're on a stage, whatever that it was that kind of portrayed what you did. So if you were into, creating products, maybe you had a photo of yourself, on the assembly line creating a product, or in the back room, on the workshop table or something like that, to kind of signify, hey, this is what I do. This is also my profession. And so for me, this was a pretty simple shot for me to do because I'm a photographer. But with newer model phones that we have these days, you can do really, really great photos with them without having to own a professional camera or a really nice lighting setup. Okay, really what it is just a matter of having good light. So maybe that's being outside, being next to a window, maybe being in a conference room or something like that where lighting is really adequate. Then go ahead and decide and frame your shot and take your photo. All right. So the next after that is that background. So that background is actually a photo that I took of downtown Orlando at night. And I really liked that photo. When I promoted it online through my profiles and things like that, I got a lot of engagement with it, which was great. And so I figured, why don't I go ahead and use that up here as well, because it's a little more unique than, let's say which in some cases, if you look at, and I don't know how many of you have LinkedIn set up right now, but some people who may not be aware of changing that, you have just a solid color background, similar to what happened when Facebook started to change their background settings, where if you didn't put a photo, then you just had a solid color. And so you have the ability for you to upload a photo, and then once you upload it, you can kind of adjust it to wherever you want it to fit to kind of capture that. And depending on the type of screen, whether it's on your phone or a wide screen or something like that, it'll render to show more of the photo as long as you upgrade it. You upload an adequate photo. All right. So next after that, you can see where I have my name, I have my title, I have my location, I have how many connections I have, as well as a link for you to hit to my contact info. I'm going to show you a screen on what that looks like in a second. But what all of that is customizable. And this is where you really want to get a little bit more creative in terms of what you're going to use. Obviously, you're going to use your name, but behind that, you can kind of put, let's say, for example, if I didn't want to put strategy architect there, I can say, Jean-Pierre Pillon, strategy architect at the end of my last name, just so that way that stands out more there, just to give you an example. I do have the area for me to put my title, which is below that. And there's a certain character limit to what you can place, but depending on what you do, you don't want to be as generic as everybody else, right? You don't want to say customer service, marketer, artist, or something like that. You want to say something that's a little bit more significant, so that way when people are searching for those keywords, you show up. And now LinkedIn's search algorithm is actually really, really, really good. It's a little convoluted if you're looking for a specific person, but if you're looking for specific keywords, whether they're in posts or within profiles, it does a really, really good job. So you want to utilize this area to put something that's really, really unique. Like for example, mine says strategy architect and professional photographer. While you can say photographer, that's pretty common. Strategy architect is a little bit more unique. It almost makes you want to say, hey, what does that mean? Hit the contact button so that way you can find out. Having my location being right now, it's in Orlando, Florida. Obviously, that you can put whatever location that you suggest. You also have the ability to put your work history and your education history. So you guys that are here, that are going to Full Sail, you definitely want to update that, because there are, believe it or not, plenty of companies that are looking for students that are both actively within the school as well as graduates of the school, because they're looking for people who have the skill sets that are going to be listed a little bit further down in your profile page. Okay, so having your name, having your title, there's also a custom URL that you can have where, very similar to with any other social platform, where if you don't set your custom URL, it's series of letters and whatnot. You can actually shorten that down to something that is just yours. So I highly suggest that you do that, so that way, depending on how common your first or last name may or may not be, jump in there and either create something that's unique, so that way it's memorable if you give that URL out to somebody, but then also if it's not already taken, then jump out there and grab that, so that way you can secure it. Just having your a LinkedIn page by itself isn't enough anymore. Okay. We talked about a little bit about the experience. There is another section below where you can start to edit. If you see that little I think I can kind of, nope, it won't show up. But down towards the right there are the about, where the little pencil is. All the little pencil icons are areas where you can edit, and all of the content kind of opens up. What I did here in this about section was talk a little bit about what I do, but then I added all of those are different presentations that I've done where people can kind of click on them and they can go and either consume that presentation, watch it right there, or look at it right there, or download it from SlideShare. And so I have that, as well as several other things below that, including recommendations, which is something that you can get from other connections that you have. So let's say, for example, you have other colleagues that are with you and that you've done work with. You would ask them, say, hey, can you write me a recommendation on LinkedIn? And they have the ability to do that. And you can write, as long or as short as you want it to be. But essentially what that does is to show people, very much like a Yelp review or, a review from another platform, to say, hey, I work with this person. They did a really good job on this, that, and the third. I recommend them. And so when we think about, if you're going from one job to another, it's essentially like having a recommendation from your previous boss to show your new boss, what you've done and what you're capable of. So I highly recommend doing that as well. A lot of companies, as well as potential hirees, as well as potential clients, look at those recommendations to dictate whether or not you're a viable candidate for what they're looking to hire you for or work with you for. All right. Now, do I have any questions here? Okay, good. Now, updating your profile, like I said, once you hit those little pencil icons, they're pretty much throughout the whole page while you're on and looking at your profile. One of the kind of tactics that I try to use is, and I try to talk about as well, is, like I said, the URL, the custom URL. So as you see there, it has LinkedIn and then /my first initial last name. It's a little bit more, traditional to do your first name and your first initial last name, just because maybe that might be easier for people to remember. But again, if you think of something that's a little bit more unique, by all means, try that as well. So long as it's not something that's already taken, you probably can go in and out, similar to like another platform like Instagram, where you can kind of change your handle in and out so long as it's not already taken. But depending on how unique it is, you may not want to do that too often, so that way you can keep that, okay? The next thing, which is really nice that they allow you to do, is add your websites. So as you can see, my first one is our website. And then right behind that is our Facebook group. If I wanted to add several more, and I did have several more, but I kind of took them out because I wasn't seeing enough traction there on those sites. So I just kind of limited it down to just the two, because those are the two most important to me. But for those of you that are out there that are creating products or have maybe certain specific parts of your website, this is a great place for you to set maybe even a short URL and link people to a landing page or a squeeze page, as we call it, where people can get specific information that is about you, and then also maybe where you offer them a free PDF or a free whatever, and then by doing that, they're able to just get that right from here. And so there's a couple different ways that you can kind of leverage this, but I think it's only got a limit of about 5 websites, give or take, that you can add up there. But by all means, it's there for you to set. You can set the URL and you can set the text next to it, as you can see there, to whatever that you like. Sure. We getting up, Mike? On the way. No problem. No, you're good. Okay.
So you have the websites here that you're adding to your contact info, and I noticed on your profile design there were logos, and is that connected to this by putting your website here?
So no. So those on the previous page, if you're talking about these at the bottom?
The one it's right under Add Profile section.
Oops.
Next to where your name is.
Oh, yes. So that's more of the work history. So that's the work history, and the education is what shows up there. Below in the about, those are actually links that I can have to portfolios or bodies of work. So while on this page, it's more direct links, there's not really any graphics to kind of showcase anything. It's really just the link and the text to describe the link. That's about it.
So you had design theory logo. do you have a separate LinkedIn page for design theory?
So that's a good question. There is a separate, very much like Facebook, you can have your own profile, and then you have your business page. So very much with LinkedIn, you can have the same thing. I do not use it as much as I used to, only because I found that there was much more traffic and much more engagement happening through my profile than I was seeing that was happening through the business page. It was almost like it was a little redundant. And so for me to manage both of those assets, it became a little too cumbersome for me and a little too much for me to manage. And so I came back away from using the business page to just using my profile page. Now that image did come from the business page, and you can add images up there, you can add articles up there and all that, and you can add employees up there. There's a lot of different features for you to leverage on that side of thing if you have a company, but the one thing that I would say about it is that just as much as all the tactics I'm going to show you here in terms of creating posts and being engaging and things like that, you're going to also want to do on that side. Another caveat with that is that you have to be just as impactful there as over here. So one of the things that I would say, and I'm going to say a little bit further within this, is that if you're going to create content on your profile page, you definitely want to create, if you really want to be aggressive with it, is at least 2 to 3 pieces of content per week. Well, now that's not as much as, like, let's say a Facebook or an Instagram or something like that. The leverage or the lifespan of posts that happen here last a lot longer. Now, same thing you're going to want to do on your business page. Create the same, but you can't use the same content, right? It's going to have to be separate. So now we're talking about 6 pieces of content per week. That's unique.
Thank you.
Makes sense? Great. So yeah, good question there. So outside of that, we have our phone number. We have some standard information, our address, email. If you want to add a separate email that maybe, like for example, this email that I use here is actually mine. But if I wanted to use maybe a catch-all email or a specific email that has like an auto response to it, maybe I would do that, or maybe I would link it to like our mailing list or something like that. I can kind of do a couple different things there. And then we have our Twitter handle as well. Now, all of these are properties that you can use to however benefit that you'd like to, but they allow you to kind of, put whatever links you want in there, so long as, obviously they're proper. For those of you that are looking for careers or jobs and things like that, LinkedIn has a really, really cool feature for you to attract headhunters. Let me go back actually a second to here. So if you look just below where it has my location and the connections and things like that, it has this little box here. And I left that there on purpose because I didn't want to take it away so I could show you guys. But if you click on that box, it brings you to this page here where you can add some information about your profile, which also turns your profile on in being somebody who's looking for a career or a job. And what's cool about this is that you're able to add whatever titles that are interesting to you. So if you're looking for, social media management or director, producer, things like that, or movie, however specific you can be about your titles, put them in there. And then also put the locations that you're interested in. So for example, in this example here, it's just showing Orlando, Florida, but maybe I wanted to find positions that were for a producer in Europe, because I know there's a lot of people that are there. So chances are they're probably going to see it. They're going to see my profile if I, update it like that. But they'll see that, and then they'll also see what kind of job types that I'm interested in. So all of this is really, really cool, and it's kind of like a set it and forget it type thing, which is also nice, right? Back to what I said in the beginning about how we used to use LinkedIn as like our online resume. You set this up, put in all these options and how visible you want to be, and then once you turn that on and once you set that and save it, now it's out there. So then when there's recruiters and job hunters and headhunters or whatnot looking for you, they'll see that this is the things that you're interested in, and if it falls in the line, they'll probably send you a message and start the conversation from there after they've looked at your profile to kind of prove, hey, this is somebody who's a viable candidate for this position or this role. Okay? Now, mind you, all of this stuff that I'm talking about is all free, right? It's all in there. It's not part of we talked a little about this earlier, but it's not part of their premium program. So by all means, as soon as you're done here, go in and make some of these updates and start taking advantage of this, okay? So posting on LinkedIn. This is probably the biggest thing, right? And there's no mistake on why I put engage up there, but I did that on purpose because the main thing that you want to do on any platform you're going to be on is you want to be engageful, right? You want to make sure that the people that you're creating content for, it's valuable to them, it's worth their time and effort for them to consume it, and it's in a format to where they start to get used to you creating this type of content for within that specific industry or subject matter. You obviously want to be engaging in your comments. As you start to create more and more posts, you'll start to see comments within your followers or people that are connected to you. Maybe they'll say, yo, this is really helpful, this is impactful, or I needed to see this. Make sure that you go back in just like anything else and, maybe hit the like button, respond back to them, and just let them know that, their time and effort for engaging with your content was appreciated, right? There is also we talked about doing video, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more in a second, but as much as you can kind of create video, be sure to do so. Now, the cool thing about LinkedIn when it comes to video is that you don't necessarily have to create long-form video content. It's a platform to where, just like anything else, where most of the users are on mobile, and so as they're scrolling through the content, they really aren't going to be looking for something to sit down and watch for the next 30, 45, an hour. So what's cool about this is that really a majority of the content you're going to be doing in video form could be the talking head, where you're kind of holding your phone in front of you and you're kind of talking into it and explaining something or talking about something. It doesn't have to be more than 3 minutes. If it could be anything between, let's say, 90 minutes to 2, great. For those of you that have the ability to go and transcribe what you're saying, those do even better, because majority of the people that are going to be watching your post or seeing your post are going to be watching it in silent mode, because they'll be maybe at school or maybe they'll be at work or something like that, and they can't necessarily turn the volume on. So if you have the transcribed text below as you're talking to describe what you're talking about, that does even better on this platform. But of course, we want to do something like this, on a weekly basis. We don't want to try to fall too far behind in terms of creating content. The next thing are groups. When I first got into LinkedIn, groups were huge. We spent probably more of our time there than almost anywhere else, because they were specific to interests. And so if, just like any other, let's like Facebook with groups, chances are there's a group that's out there that's within your interest or within your industry. There's probably several of them, and what you're probably going to have to do is, when you go to search for them, is to look specifically and decide, whether or not they're active and how active they are and how many users are in there, so that way you can jump in and start to contribute. Now, just like any place else, you don't want to jump in there and be spammy. You don't want to jump in there and say, hey, I have this for sale, I'm selling this, you should buy this, and I'm better than this guy down the street. Really, what you want to do is see what people are talking about and comment on their posts with something that is either complimentary, or if it has to be, it could even be controversy, right? It could be something to where it's like, well, you may be talking about this in this way, but I've seen this done at a quicker way with this company or this product, or doing it this way. And that's also helpful, right? And that person who initially posted it may not have known that. And so you're creating value not just for the people that are in the group reading that post, but as well as the person who created it as well. And so what also happens with that is that you start to become a subject matter expert, as long as you continue to either create content in that group, or as you start to add value to that group. As people are in there, they start to get familiar with seeing, he's like, wow, this guy Robert's in here like every day, and he's always saying really good stuff. Robert must know what he's talking about. Let me go look at his profile. And then I go look at his profile and I see, oh, this makes sense. He's been in the industry for this. He's gone to, to this school, or he's gone to, he's worked at this company. That makes sense on why he knows that. You know what? Maybe I should ask him, about this, that, and the third. Maybe we should hire him. Who knows? The possibilities are kind of endless. And again, going back to the slide we talked about before, where you've got millions of users, all around the world, you don't know where your impact is really going to be taken in. So highly recommend groups if you haven't gotten into them before. LinkedIn doesn't do as much of a good job as I'd like when it comes to analytics. Other platforms kind of give you a dashboard, if you will, to kind of see that. In LinkedIn, when it comes to your posts and videos, it just shows you within the post at the bottom of it what how many views that are there, and I'll show you some examples in a second. But it is showing you something. And so what I would say is that as you start to create content, go back maybe once a week or maybe once a month and go back and look to see what your numbers are for those posts and document it. Say, hey, the post one, I talked about, this, or if you use an editorial calendar, which is also great, go back and, add some metrics in the editorial calendar maybe a month later and say, this post did this much, this post did that much, and so on. And then after about a month or two, go back and see what's been really working for you. Like which ones had the most content, which ones had the most engagement or the most views, and that'll kind of dictate to say, well, maybe I should create more content in this way and also talking about this because it seems to do a lot better than some of the other things that I created. Last two things is graphics and images. Those are always great. We're continuing to be more visual users of platforms than we are reading. And so the more that you can kind of use graphics to kind of draw people into your content, maybe it's the graphic with an overlaying text to describe what the content's about or what the post is about, do that. And the last is to, edit often with new content. Kind of talked about that before. Create something, at least, I'd say at the very least once a week, but if you can, 2 to 3 times a week. Okay, so the anatomy of a post. I'm going to kind of go through these a little quick, but let me know if you have any questions. Essentially, what you want to do is, you want to get visual. We talked about that a second ago with your posts. And when you create articles within LinkedIn as well, it's very much like a blog post. So you kind of have your title, and then you can have some text, then you can have a supporting image, and then some more text, another supporting image. So you can add several pieces of visuals in there. And so by all means, do that if it helps to support what you're talking about. Your titles should be about 30 to 35 characters long, and if you can, with your articles, probably about 2,500 words. We've been seeing that with what we believe Google is happy with when it comes to creating blog posts on our websites, is that it needs to be at least 2,500 words. And so in order for it to be indexed and really, cataloged, so I would say, if you're creating articles on LinkedIn as well, do the same. However, create content specifically for that platform. Don't just regurgitate the same thing or copy and paste the same thing from your website on as an article on here, because they're going to see that. I mean, your followers are going to see that as well. Experiment with catchy titles. Not every title that you're going to come up with is going to be the best title, and so sometimes you kind of have to mix it up a little bit, so do that. One of the other things that I highly recommend using is hashtags. They do really, really well on this platform. You can follow hashtags, and so that means that you can kind of jump into them and see what people are talking about and see how much their engagement is on that specific hashtag, so that way okay, let me save this here. Producer seems to do really well, or Orlando copywriter seems to do really well. Let me go ahead and save that, and so when I start to create content, I'm going to start using that hashtag as well, because there's a lot of engagement here. There's a lot of content here, right? And then lastly, of course, take notice to what's working and what's not working, so that way you know what to create. Oh, yeah.
Is it ready? Okay.
You're ready.
So I was surprised to see 2,500 words because you were saying how short videos work better, and people aren't necessarily looking to spend a lot of time on their phone reading a long article.
Right.
And then the other thing was, would you suggest, like, if you have a blog post on a website somewhere, putting that as your content, and could that lead back to your, people to go back to your website?
Sure, in a sense. So if you're doing an article, there's articles and there's posts with LinkedIn. If you're doing an article, which is, I would say, more similar to like a blog post, then that's where the long form, is really going to be helpful. However, I wouldn't suggest that you use exactly what you're using on your whatever, whether it's your blog or wherever else that you're publishing. Don't use that exact same thing word for word within here. Either you're going to paraphrase it, or you're going to talk about it in a specific or a more alternative way, so that way it is different, similar, it is different in a way than if someone was to read it from here and then go to your website to go see more information and see the exact same post from the exact same day, word for word. You're not really giving value in that sense. And believe it or not, people are becoming much more savvy when it comes to content. And so while we have these automation tools that'll let us post something in one platform and then it'll send the same information to another platform, we know that. And so we'll check on that. We'll go and say, oh, okay, well, let me go over here, to this other, it's because they have a link. So I'll go to this other link and see what they're talking about over there. And if I'm seeing exactly the same things, then I'm automatically thinking, this person either isn't creating this content, they're paying someone to do this content, or they're really not paying attention to the value of what this content could be, because they're just creating one thing and they're literally copying word for word everywhere else the same thing. And so there's really not value there when it comes to those platforms and doing it that way. Does that make sense?
I see. You wouldn't suggest like just, sharing your exact blog post and say, here's my blog post for the week.
So you can do that as a post, and so what I would do in that form is very similar to like blog posts now, where you have like your title, maybe the supporting image, and like a snippet. You can do that. So where you say, hey, if you want to read more, here's the link, and you can do that. And so what's also cool about posts within LinkedIn is that you can put multiple links. So maybe what you're talking about, not only do you have information back to read more on your website, but maybe, hey, there's this resource to go get free stuff here, or read more, get the statistics from here, and so on. You can have all of those links within the article as well, or within the post as well. So you can
and
do
that counts for the links that you say that you should have.
You can. You don't necessarily. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's a full requirement, but I would say that at the very least you want to have some kind of link to support what you're talking about. Even if it is you're linking back to your website to say, hey, if you want more information about this, I talk about this all the time, or I write about this all the time, here's a link to my website, and put that in the post.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah, good question.
Sean, we have an online question for you in
Sure.
regards to post. In your experience, have there been better times or days where you're going to get more engagement on a post?
Yeah, so LinkedIn does have, and I have it on another slide where it talks about your metrics, and on the mobile side, it also shows you, because once a week it'll send you an email and tell you like who's looking at your profile and who's kind of engaging. It'll kind of tell you what day or day of the week that they're on there as well. It's again not as robust as I'd like it to be, is what I'm used to, but it does kind of give you that, which is really beneficial, especially if you're creating content on a regular basis, let's say 2, 3, 4 times a week. To understand what days they work out to be better is good, but it doesn't tell you the time of day. But I'm going to talk about that in a second as well. But good question. Okay. So this is where I wanted to get into. The lifetime of a post. And this is something I'm super, super excited about, because if you think about the lifetime of a post or of a tweet, it's probably seconds. It used to be minutes, and now it's probably seconds, right? Depending on the time of day or what's going on and whatnot, and how many people that are following you and things like that, what hashtags you use. If you think about the lifetime value, or the lifetime of a post on Facebook, whether it's your profile or your business page, all of that's short as well. And whatever other platform, Instagram, same thing. The thing that I love about LinkedIn, though, is that what's cool about it is that if I post something, in this example right here, I posted, now it's probably maybe 2 weeks ago or so. Within the same day, I probably got, I don't know, at the end of the day, I probably got maybe, 20 likes or something, like, not 20 likes, maybe like 60 views. Okay, and here I'm not going to show it to you, but I'll show it to you on the next slide, which shows you the full breakdown. But let's say I think I got about 60 views within the first day, and I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, wow, 60 views, okay, that's not bad. But then what was really cool about it is that for the people that are following me, that those that engaged, so as you can see, they got about 22 likes and 6 comments. Of those 22 people that liked it, now the people that go to visit LinkedIn for them, they'll see that they like this, even though they're not following me, but they'll see it, and then they can engage with it as well. They'll maybe click on it to view it, maybe they'll click to comment, and so on and so forth. So let me go back even further, actually. I'll go back a little bit. So I may have set this up, let's say I posted this, let's say Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. My followers, whenever they decide to jump onto LinkedIn, they may jump on maybe on Thursday, say 4 o'clock. When they go on, they'll see this on their timeline, which is great because I had posted this 2 days ago. So for them to kind of go in much later on and still see this, that's fantastic. It's completely different than most of the other algorithms when you think about social media, the other social platforms. This is great. So now, again, now they saw that on Thursday, let's say 4 o'clock, but then they engaged with it at 4 o'clock. Maybe they hit the like button, maybe hit the comment button or something like that. Now, the people that are following them, maybe they get on to LinkedIn maybe 2 weeks later, a week later, and they see that they engage and it says so-and-so liked this post or so-and-so commented on this post. And it shows up in there. So they'll see the graphic, they'll see it or whatever. And at that point, that person who's not following me, who's not connected to me, will then see my content. So the lifespan of this post that I created maybe even 2 weeks ago still keeps on getting views, several weeks afterwards, which is amazing. If you think about some of the other platforms that are out there, you really are having to create content almost several times a day in order for you to kind of hopefully get traction on just one. So I say all that to say, it's not necessarily I'm going to tell you that you have to create, 5 pieces of content every single day or every single week with this platform, but the lifetime of it is really, really good. So long as, again, you're creating content that's really beneficial to your followers. So going to here. So this is okay. So I posted this on October 29th, right? And so we're a few weeks from that, right? Just before Halloween. Now, at the time that I took the screenshot, it was, almost 1,000 views, which is fantastic. It's just a quick image that I created because it was a need that I thought was necessary. I ended up seeing it was over almost about 1,000 views, and it also showed me a breakdown of the different industries or companies or people who work for companies that were viewing this as well. And so if we look at the different types of apps, CarMax or companies, Snap App, Wells Fargo, or people who have searched this, people who have the title salesperson have viewed it. 89 people viewed it within the Orlando, Florida area, and as well as these other areas. So if I'm creating content and I'm specifically trying to target, and when we talked about the different types of users or the amount of users that are across the country or across the world, if I'm creating content that I'm trying to target those areas and I start to see, oh, okay, it's working, that's fantastic. So in terms of analytics, this is nice to see in terms of metrics or data. It could be more refined, but it's still something that's worth to know that's available to you if you're creating content within this platform. So video. There's video that I try to create on this platform often enough, but I spend a lot more time within another platform, within my Facebook group. That's going to start to change because I'm going to start to take a lot of what I do, I should say, on that Facebook group is more of long form. So it's like 20, 30 minutes. I'm not going to put a 20, 30-minute video on LinkedIn. What I am going to do, though, is take some time out to take snippets or hot takes from those videos and then put them on LinkedIn. Right, because at that point, if I do that, then I know that it's within a amount of time that people are going to want to consume, but it's also going to be bite-sized. It's going to give them exactly what they want to see. Not too long ago, a couple months ago, LinkedIn started to change their like pattern, where before it was just like the like button, and now they've kind of joined with other platforms where you can like, you can heart it, you can do the wow and things like that, which is also nice. There's different forms of engagement. But what I did here was, one, I created this video and I natively uploaded it to LinkedIn. It wasn't where it's like, oh, I'm going to take this link, and even though I uploaded already to YouTube, I'm just going to put this link up here. No, I took the exact thing, and if anything, talked about it in a way to where it didn't really seem like it was something that I was going to use elsewhere. But I also said, specifically, hey, be sure if you have any questions to let me know in the comments below, so that way people know, hey, you can engage with me here because you found it here, you watched it here, I'll talk to you here. Right? And the other thing too, just like any other platform, LinkedIn knows, okay, if this is something that is uploaded natively, we're going to treat this differently because it's video and they're trying to optimize more for video and they want to engage, or they want more people to engage on their platform being content creators, putting video. This is what they want to see. And so when they see that you're uploading natively, they're gonna do whatever it is in their algorithms to make sure that people that are following you or could potentially be interested in this content will see it. Okay. Again, no more than 2 to 3 minutes. You kind of want to get to the point really quickly. In this video, I think I had a really quick opener graphic or whatever, where I think I was talking about email or some email tips. So what I wanted to say, I got right to it. It was under 2 minutes, and said what I had to say, and then I'm out. Right? I'm not there yet with creating the captions, but there's services that are out there if you want to use captions, if you don't want to actually type them in. But, in some cases, like I said, it's fine for you to do it without it. And as you start to create more and you start to feel like this is where you want to, create a lot more content, by all means, invest in doing closed captioning so that people can kind of read it as they're watching. And lastly, with every opportunity that you can with creating video, try to leave them with a call to action. Maybe it's to say, hey, if you guys have you guys tried this already? And if you haven't already tried this, or if you have tried this, let me know your thoughts. That's a call to action. Or if you guys want to take this to the next level, get something more out of this, visit my website. Here's the link. Maybe have the link, a short URL in the link, so that way people can jump on there and then they can read some more information. Give them something to do at the end of the video. Don't just sign off like as if this is it and they'll never see from you again. Tell them something more. Say, hey, I have more stuff like this on my website or whatever. So a little bit more on the content stats. Posts that have images get twice the amount of comments than those that don't. Videos that are posted on there are 5 times as likely to get comments than those that don't. And then this is from LinkedIn. I think this is from Hootsuite. They were seeing about 2 million posts, videos, and articles are being uploaded to LinkedIn on a monthly basis, which is a lot of content. It's not as much as some of the other competitors, but for this space that is talking specifically about business, that's a lot of content. So that's great, right? That means there's a lot more people that are engaging in the platform and creating content there.
Sean, we have an online question for you.
Yeah, sure.
We have a student who has a podcast as well as various social media platforms. Now, when they're posting a video, should it vary per platform? Or should it just be one video across all platforms?
So it depends, right? So if we think about YouTube, we're mostly familiar with YouTube being long form video content, right? If we think about Facebook, it depends. Maybe not as long, but maybe about 10, 15 minutes, and that's fine. Maybe, and then where our attention span is like, all right, I'm out of here. Instagram, we have IGTV, so we have like some where you have like the 1 minute snippet, and if you want to continue watching it, you have another. I think it's like 30 or so minutes. You can continue watching a long form content there. What I would say though is that just like posts, is that you want to create content that is specific to that platform. So in Instagram, for example, you might have a video where you're talking about something and you use maybe like a snippet. And then at the end of that, you're going to say, hey, for more on this, go back and look at my story. Or I have more where I'm talking about this. Or check out the behind the scenes on my IG story. So that way people that are watching it are knowing that, hey, this is a video he specifically posted here. And then I could take that same thing and I could say, well, okay, I'm going to upload something a little bit different. Or I'm going to upload this a little bit different and talk about this in this way on LinkedIn and say, hey, by the way, I also have my SlideShare links to this presentation on my profile. So when you're done watching this, if you want to see more, go visit this here on my profile page and go consume that there. Same thing with YouTube. Hey, this is part 1 of a 3-part series. Go back and, or subscribe so that way you can see this, that, and the third. And the same thing with podcasts. It's no different. It's just the way that you're going to offer ways for people to continue or to consume it. You want to speak about it specifically within that platform. Don't just blanket statement it. Don't just copy and paste it. People are aware of that, and it kind of turns them off. They want a unique experience. Another example I'll give you is that if you think about TV shows or movies, especially when we think about sequels, as soon as we see another movie that's like from one that we've seen before, let's say, for example, the newest Lion King that came out, right? It didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do or whatnot, and people were kind of like, I don't know, because, Lion King was so, I cried when I first saw it. Am I going to cry at the same time? We kind of feel the same way, right? Where it's like, well, if I know that you just posted this here, am I going to get the same feeling when I see this, maybe a day later over here? Give them something that's a different offering so that way you captivate them in the way that they're used to being captivated on that platform. Okay? Good question. Okay. So this is probably the easiest part of this whole thing is let's talk about the apps that we can get into, right? There's a bunch. Some of these are actually owned by LinkedIn. They went ahead and purchased some of these platforms. So SlideShare, for example, is one of their platforms that they acquired. SlideShare is really, really good for those of you that are out there that create slides or decks or presentations. You can kind of upload that whole PDF or Keynote or PowerPoint, whatever that it is, and SlideShare will allow people to not just consume it from that platform, but they'll allow it to be embedded and to be shared. And so if maybe you don't have a website or you don't have a place for you to kind of host it yourself, you can host your presentations up on SlideShare, and then you can link back to them. So now, back on one of the previous slides where I was showing my profile, I had all those little graphics that I was kind of showing before. All of those were all links to my SlideShare presentations that you can just click on right from my profile page and then consume those from there. And then, of course, you could take it one step further by going straight to it or whatever. But it's a really cool site. It's free, and so you can host them up there. So by all means, use that. Mixkit is a site that we use for B-roll for video. They will send you, if you sign up to their mailing list, which is also free, they'll send you a video or a collection of videos like once a week, and they're kind of random, but sometimes they're seasonal, but they're fantastic because they're high quality videos that are royalty free that you could then take and kind of use, however that you want to use them to help promote, what you're doing. So if you're creating a commercial for going to the beach, or maybe you need something to kind of showcase like a city or something like that, and you need some quick B-roll, Mixkit is a really good site for you to be able to download some high quality video and use that in your content creations. Canva is a free service as well for you to kind of create graphics and things like that. So if you're not a graphic designer, that's okay. You can still use this and create something really pretty quickly, and still be able to use that within areas outside of that platform. So you download it and you have that graphic. Maybe you want to throw some text over it. Maybe you want to maybe some arrows to draw out something or something like that. By all means, use Canva. Lynda.com, for those of you that are Orange County residents, Lynda.com is actually a learning platform that you can get some continuing education on. And there's contributors that it's kind of like like a Khan Academy or something like that, where you can kind of learn some specific things. But what's cool about it is that it's free. So if you have a library card within Orange County, you can actually consume that by joining those two together. Pixels is a site that we use for getting royalty-free images, and they also have videos on there as well that are also high quality, so I use that as well. So when you get on there, you can toggle between photos and video, and so if you're looking for specific photos about whatever, chances are it's probably going to be in there, which is fantastic. Now, when it comes to thinking about what you want to talk about or what you want to write content for, I highly suggest using Google Trends. And the reason for that is because when you jump on Google Trends, it'll tell you what's popular right now. So if you want to ride the wave of what's popular, look to see what people are talking about or what people are consuming or searching about. And then, if you're quick enough and you can create content about it, it's either complimentary or controversy. Jump on Google Trends and write something and then publish that, so that we can kind of ride the wave of that popularity for whatever the subject matter is for that time. And lastly is Portent's Content Idea Generator. I found this not too long ago, and it's kind of cool because it's a little AI based. But if you're ever sitting in front of your computer trying to figure out what do I want to write about, but maybe you only have like one or two words that you have in mind, but then you don't know what the title is going to be and where to go for. This is a pretty cool generator where if you just type in maybe one or two keywords and hit submit, it'll just generate for you a couple of different titles that you can then take and use, and then you can create something behind that. So if you're having troubles with creating titles for blog posts, use that. Again, all of this stuff is free to use to a certain degree. All right? Okay. Any questions?
We do have a great online question for you.
Go for it.
Since you are a strategy architect as well as a professional photographer,
Sure.
I have a student who is also in two different industries, I would like to say.
Okay.
How do you differentiate the way you post for each topic?
Yeah, that's tough. That's only something I could say that you'll learn over time, because depending on the platform that you're posting on will dictate what people are interested in, what people are interested in consuming from you based on that platform. So, like for example, as a photographer, I'm going to spend a lot more time on maybe Instagram, maybe 500 pixels, and some other like visual places for me to post my content, because on those platforms, people who are users of that platform are more used to just seeing visuals. And then for example, for LinkedIn, I know that when I'm on there, I'm probably going to be seeing more stuff that's more industry based on the people that I follow, or the hashtags that I follow, or the businesses that I follow. And so I'm fine with that there. And so what I would say really is just look at your numbers. Look to see how people are engaging. If you're, a kind of like a dual creative, you can start off by posting, both of your work on each of these platforms, but just go back and look over time and see what's actually performing. If one is performing, and chances are one is going to perform better than the other, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it, and depending on who's following you in the platform, that's probably going to be the place that or the subject that you're probably probably going to spend a lot more time on creating content for that platform. And if you love the other creative, that's fine too. But then maybe find another outlet or another platform for you to post that on, so that way you can get more engagement in that area for that content.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, because I wasn't very clear about lynda.com.
Sure.
Is it the source resourceful for let's say for ZBrush and Unreal Engine 4? You know, I mean, those are the programs I like to learn.
It might be. So so I'll give you an example for me. When I first got into WordPress, I had no idea how to build a WordPress site. And I literally jumped in there, and this was before it was even offered for free. So I paid for whatever the subscription was for a month or something like that. Jumped in there, specifically looked for WordPress, and I found several different courses that were talking about not just WordPress, but how to build it, how to install it, how to optimize it, and all this stuff, right? So I just jumped in there. I was like, oh, this is great. Learned what I had to learn. Probably took me maybe a good afternoon, and then it was great. I got what I needed, and I'm out. So what I would say for you is if there's specific things that you're looking to understand, chances are someone's probably created the content for that up there. So by all means, yeah, check it out. Because again, it's free, so why not? But yeah, good question. Any other questions? Sure. Okay, right here. Hold on one second.
Hi, my question will be, I'm on my second month of my degree program,
Okay.
and I'm already making my LinkedIn page, but I don't know if, do you think it's too soon to make it, or?
No. So I would say definitely get into it right now. Right? Go ahead and build your profile up as best as you can for what you have. So in terms of your skills, add in the skills that you have, add in the education that you have, your history, everything that you can in terms of what we showed here. That's going to change, and that's great, because if you're just getting into your program, your skills are going to start to evolve, and you're going to start to have more and more skills, which is fantastic. As you start to add more connections to your profile, people will start to see, because one of the things that LinkedIn does really, really well that a lot of the other platforms don't do is that every time something happens, they send an email out to everybody that follows you. So then it's oh, there was a work anniversary. There was, you added this skill, whatever, graduated, whatever that it is. LinkedIn does a really good job by sending out. So it's almost like having your own email service of accolades sending out whenever you have accolades. So all you have to do is just continue to update that. So you're in a great space because you're just getting started. Go ahead and do that, and then add what you have for now, and then just remember to go back. Maybe for where you are, maybe maybe once a month or maybe twice a month, if depending on how active you want to be. At the very least, for just adding in your accolades or not the recommendations, but your skills. Go in there and add those, because like I said, people will see it, they'll get a notification, and then they'll probably want to engage, which is also great, because as more they engage, you'll get exposed to other people, and who knows where those connections will end up. Okay.
And I have another question.
Sure.
How can I make more connections? With the hashtags or?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done before is I've gone to networking events. I've gone to colleagues. So you're at a great place. You have plenty of people that come in and out of Full Sail on a regular basis that you probably are engaged with, or you can engage with. Just ask them and say, hey, do you mind connecting with me? Or if you have business cards, put it on your business card. Put the short URL or the custom URL on your business card, so that when people go there and they see it, they're like, oh yeah, this is great. You're on LinkedIn, perfect. Boom, and then you'll get connections that way as well.
Thank you.
All right, and I think we're out of time. Kim.
Just one
Okay.
second. I just wanted to add
Yeah.
something is joining groups on LinkedIn that are of interest to you and your area of study. You can then meet other people, and they'll be your connections as well.
For sure. Now, I want to say this thing, though, is that be careful about the connections. There's a lot of people that are out there all around the world that are trying to make connections just because through you, once they're connected to you, they can then try to connect to somebody else. Those are kind of spammy. So unless it's someone that you know or you want to know, take your time. Don't accept everything. Trust me, you'll see a bunch of connection requests as soon as you jump on there. I probably get about 2 or 3 a day, and from all over the world, and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I'm not going to connect with them, right? Or I'll send them a message back, say, hey, thanks for the connection request. Have we met, or did somebody tell you about me? And then we'll dialogue there. And I still won't hit accept until I can, certify that or verify that. Okay? But yeah, good points. Okay. Thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate you coming out and being here, as well as those of you online watching. If you have any other questions, by all means, you can visit our website and check out me more there, or find me online. Thank you so much.